All right, here we are. We are live. Go for it.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that my company works with companies, corporations, organizations, what have you, and the expectation is that that we are paid for those services.
Hmm.
We do have entertainment offerings, and ultimately, you have an aim to at some point get paid for those services as well because you're doing the work. There are a lot of pro bono offerings that we do, and that's more often than not made explicitly clear up front. But for the most part, you know, for 20 years I've been in this industry.
Hmm.
So, I've amassed, a you know, a history of
Right.
work, um, network contacts, ways of doing things, just like anyone else that applies their trade. So, people should get paid um, for what they've put in, you know?
I agree. I
And if,
agree. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like everyone deserves a wage. Everyone deserves to be a professional in their field. And, obviously acting in the creative industries is absolutely no different to whether you're an actor, writer, a janitor, an architect, whatever. And if, I like to say if we're working for free, we're not really working for free. We're either doing it on spec or we're auditioning in the hopes that we're going to get paid for our talent eventually. And I think there's
yeah,
nothing no. Even if you are an established star like Krasinski, and it seemed like you were just doing this, to kind of lighten the mood. It doesn't mean that this isn't part of your profession. So Godspeed to him and his new show. The only thing I will warn if he's not going to be starring in it, I'm not sure how good the ratings are going to be because he was part of the whole draw. But I guess we'll have to see who they hire.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure, he crafted it so, be in the vein of what he's already done. Um, and this is kind of like the last thing. We just spoke about Joe Rogan and what's happened with his show. His
Oh yeah,
podcast had to start at the first podcast.
hmm, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely did. I mean, you had this is a guy whose primary job is as a stand-up comedian and an actor, and like a lot of these guys, even Mark Maron, who started these podcasts really as a form of self-expression, as a form of psychoanalysis of their own lives and their own work, and just getting that out there. But as they kept building this audience, as they became more popular, the thing started to monetize. They started to get sponsors, they had revenue, now they have a staff, they have all these things. And you cannot blame any of them for making money. I mean, Joe Rogan just signed a huge deal with Spotify for like $100 million to go exclusive with them starting September. And that's
Yep.
a gigantic deal. He's basically going to be the Howard Stern of podcasting, and it's incredible to see his rise. And I was in LA, as you know, in February, just before the lockdown, and I had a chance to go out and see one of his shows at the Comedy Store. And just this was like a midweek show. I wasn't expecting a huge crowd, and it was just packed to the gills. And it was mainly his podcast audience. He uses the podcast to promote his live shows, and it was just an electric atmosphere in the middle of the week. And obviously he was there. He had a lot of young up and coming comedians opening for him, and even Judd Apatow went up and did a set. So it was it's just amazing to see what he's built as well.
Yeah. So love him or hate him, $100 million is nothing to sneeze at, and to see a deal like that happen, during this time,
Hmm.
um, is a test to his ability that has been crafted, over time. So, speaking of crafting, we're into our mid 30s in terms of our podcast, and we're still churning them out. So,
Yeah.
we love to thank everyone that has tuned in so far. Our 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 fans that have followed us so far, and then people
Yeah.
who will follow us in the future. Um, we are on this week to week basis. Um, sort of have a backlog of people that we want to interview. So not yet reveal who's going to come next week, but for certain, we're very much looking forward to it. So we'd like to thank all the listeners. I'm Kevin Sharpley,
I'm J.O. Martinez, and
and
this
we'll.
is Screen Heat Miami.
That's right. Next week.
That's right. And we always say until next time, happy streaming.